Hi, guys. Welcome back to BMU the pod. My name is Suma, the co host of the pod.
My name is Joella, the other co-host of the pod, and we're here today back on our pod business. As you can see, we're passing the mic today because we in between setups.
But we'll get there soon. We're just gonna start. Jola, question.
Yes, ma'am.
What are your thoughts on Christian clubs right now? I like the you've seen it on TikTok, like people going to clubs that are for Christians. Maybe you've seen it.
Okay, so my thoughts on the Christian clubs that are arising right now, um, in the Christian culture. I am very indifferent about it, just because I feel like when it comes to being a Christian, like we have to separate ourselves from the things of this world. Like we have to not conform to the norms of what society, tries to place us in. And I think with the Christian clubs, though I understand the concept of wanting to have a place where you can you know, be free and I guess fellowship and community and all that stuff. I just think I don't know, the concept of a club, can't you find different ways to have that same space that you want, but in a different environment? Maybe I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I agree 100%. I think the thing with the word, I think the issue is the word club. To be honest, because what do you think about when you think of a club? You think about like going out, nightlife, whatever, cool. And if the justification is like, oh, we're listening to worship music, we're dancing, we're praising God as young people, like, isn't that what we do in church too? So I don't think it's the issue with the idea. I think the name is what kind of throws me off, because when I think of club, I think of nightlife. I think of other than yeah, I think the word is an issue for me, because like Joella said, I think the fine line between conforming to the world and separation from God, or conforming to the world and living a righteous and just life, the lines shouldn't be blurred. And I feel like the lines are slightly being blurred when it should be like a hard line in the sand, you know?
Hmm.
So that's where I stand. I feel like we kind of
Yeah.
similar stance,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I definitely agree. But if we sit here, we can talk about anything and everything under the sun for hours. So let's get into today's topic.
so we are talking about stop running from God today. And what we mean by stop running from God is like when we're so deep in sin that we feel like our only option is to keep getting deep in sin and keep running from God. And also too, when we're running from God and not understanding why we're running from God, we also lack the fear of God. We lack what even is a fear of God. The fear of God is to honor him, to be obedient to him, to have just a reverence for God. And if we knew what that meant, we wouldn't run from God sometimes. Right. When we fall into sin, we fall into that sin, we realize, oh, I fell into that sin, let me reconcile what I did. Or when you're a child, right? For let me give an example. When you're a child, especially coming from maybe an African home, if you know that this is not the type of punishment that everybody goes for. But if you know you're getting a beating from your parent and they're coming towards you, what are you doing? You're running. Right. You're finding a place to hide. You're running every room in the house, outside, wherever, because you don't want to get caught. And I think sometimes as Christians, that's what we do. We run, we try to close every door, we hide from God in every way possible, instead of, God, I'm sorry for what I did. I'm coming to you to tell you. I mean, as if he can't see what we did. But sometimes we act like children in that aspect when we're running and we're trying to find every way to hide from God. But yeah.
Yeah, I think we feel like God is embarrassed of our mistakes, and that should never be the case because God never said that he was embarrassed when we fall, or like he's ashamed of us when we make mistakes, or when we um you know just fall into the sin of this world. And I think another thing that I used to say a lot when I'd make mistakes, I'll be like, oh, well, I can't feel the presence of God anymore, or like I feel so disconnected from God right now. I feel so far away, and that honestly came from the fact that I was placing myself in isolation just because I felt like I wasn't where I wanted to be, or where I thought I should be to be able to come to God. And I remember one thing that we were talking about a while back, and you had specifically said something about like how no one should place you in a season of isolation outside of God. And that really like stuck with me, because that's what I used to do a lot. Like when I would make a mistake, or when I would like fall into sin, or just anything of that nature, like I would place myself in like my own form of isolation, because I was like, oh well, I don't want to talk to my family right now, or I don't want to talk to my friends right now, because I don't want them to see me like in this way, because like I don't feel like I'm connected to God right now, or I just feel so far away from God. I can't talk to anyone else. I can't talk to this person and that person, which caused me to also run away from God, because now I'm like, oh well, I don't feel like I'm at that point in my life where I can be talking to God because I did this and I did that. And honestly, I feel like the devil does so good job with like magnifying your sins, so all you can do is see that sin when like you do fall short. And that kind of just reminds me of the story of like Adam and Eve. And I know we talk about Adam and Eve all the time, but like it just always relates back to them. But when Adam and Eve sinned and they ate from the tree of good and evil, and their eyes opened, and like they realized that they were naked, and they literally ran to hide, and God asked them like, oh, what, why are you hiding? And they were like, oh, because we're naked. And God was like, who told you you were naked? And I feel like that's us, like that's me. Like I used to always run and hide when I make a mistake, because like, oh, like I just did this, just did that, and like that's all I could see. But like who told you that, like, what you were doing, like who, like I feel like the devil tries to make it so you can only see that part of yourself. But God is also trying to help us understand that like regardless of what you do, like I'm still here, I'm still going to come after you. I'm still going to um be here for you to speak to. Like who told you you can't come to me? Like who told you you don't have that relationship with me just because you did this or you did that?
I think I was the same way, but something a little different from like, because I'm always like, if I do something wrong, or I want to be in right standing before I'm talking to you, or like I'm like, if I'm just going through it, and like, when life is lifing, I will like hide away, and like put myself in the same like self isolation, like you just said. But also, do you feel like in the beginning, because this is how I felt when I was putting myself in these self isolations, I was trying to fill a void that only could be filled by God. But I was like, I was big, like when I was still in the world, I was big on like temporary fulfillment, like, oh, this is gonna bring instant gratification, or like if I do this, this is gonna bring instant joy, and like it's gonna be fun for the moment. And I feel like that's where my isolation came from, if that makes sense. Like I would be just like, I just wanted quick quick satisfaction in any aspect. And like even like back to like, if we like 2020 COVID era, like schoolwork, for example, it was like it was so easy to look up homework online. It was so easy.
Right.
It still is sometimes, but like, you know what I mean? Like if I'm being honest, like it was so easy in instance, like why do I put in this 2 hours of work when I could get it done in 30 minutes and do something else? So I feel like mine was like, I was trying to fill a void, and I would keep going deeper and deeper in that sin, whatever it would be. And then like until I almost, so I would like hit a wall, like, well, I'm to the pit. Where can I go now? So I feel like for me, my big thing was like, okay, like you're already in the sin, just keep, or that's what how the devil gets your mind. Like he'll tell you like, oh, you're already in the sin, or you already started that lie, so keep going with the lie. Like you want to protect somebody's feelings, keep going with that lie. So I feel like when I was running from God, it would be like, oh, like I'm protecting other people. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not doing anything that's inherently bad, if that makes sense. Like that's how I like would constantly run from God. And that's one thing that's like when you're like made new in Christ, it's not, these things don't disappear though. That's the thing. And I really had to like even when that thought comes back, like, okay, like you could just tell her this, or I could tell, oh Joella, like instead of telling you the truth, like I could just make up a lie so you will think that, oh, we can't hang out today. Like the past. Like the beginning of our friendship. Right. But yeah, that was my like running from God. I would like just like I would burden myself in constant, like to the point where I'm like, I can't even go to God. This sin is way bigger than me. And the devil did a great job in my mind thinking like that that's who I am. That's what I've become, if that makes sense. But
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And the verse that comes to mind is Psalms 34 verse 15, and says, "The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to hear his ears are open to their cry for help." And I feel like if we really wanted a changed heart, like if we really wanted to leave our past lives, like he would be there to listen to us. But I feel like after a while become so comfortable with doing what we're doing, with living in our mistakes, in our our failures, that it just becomes like easier to continue to go down that path and to turn and do a whole 360. And the Bible even tells us that, like, we're not residents of this world, we're not citizens of this world, we're residents of heaven, you know what I mean? And obviously, like, because we're from this, we're created out of this world, we found comfortability in here. But sometimes you really just have to be okay with being uncomfortable, because that uncomfortability is where growth comes. Like, we can't ask for growth and not accept the pain that comes from growth as well. Like, sometimes we do the wrong things with the right heart, but we're not even acknowledging that, like, okay, hold on, like, this is the wrong thing. And if I really want to change, then I have to go through the pain or go through the struggle of changing. But that doesn't mean that we have to hide from God in the process of that change. Like, no, he wants to be included in that process, he wants to be included in that journey. And there's this verse that's popping in my head. We read it during Bible studies, and it was Ecclesiastics. Hold on, I have it written down. It was Ecclesiastes 7 verse 3, and it was like, grief is better than laughter. And I was like, why is grief better than laughter? Like, wouldn't you think joy is better than sadness? But after, like, we read it and I was doing my little research, it was like, laughter is great, but life is not all delight. In laughter, we rarely consider the difficult areas of our lives and how to improve. But when there's difficulties, when there's struggle, that's when we reassess and reevaluate our lives and actually make changes to improve our lives. So I was like, okay, so now I understand, when grief comes, when sorrow comes, that's when you actually want to change. That's when you actually want to get out of that situation. But when you're masking, yeah, is that the word? Yeah. When you're covering up your pain with laughter, you're just settling with what you're doing. And God doesn't God sees you the way other people don't see you. So if you're just, you know, acting like your life is so perfect, God sees the pain. So why don't you go to the person who sees what you're going through, you know? Like, I think that's the hard part, is just going to the people who see your pain, because you don't want people to see that you're not doing well.
and also I feel like God can't meet you where you're hiding also. Like you have to be authentic and you have to be real with him. And there was something that you said that reminded me of a TikTok that I saw about this girl was saying how let me think how, oh, when you the more you know God, the more you start to hate the world as well. And it made me think, because like there's some things where in the beginning and still now, it's like I'm trying to find what I think about this issue, or what I think about this like big topic, and it's like, do I not know God for real? Like it's a question that like you actually have to ask yourself, because sometimes we know of him but we don't really know him, and that's where I am right now. Like do you actually know him the way that you think you know him? Because there are some things where it's like, wait, some Christians will be so like firm on this, and then you'll have other Christians who are not. So I'm like where's the fine line for me? Then I had to realize it's not what they think or they think, it's about what God is putting on your heart for you to think. And it just made me realize that sometimes when we are, because like how you said, like we are of this world. Wait, let me quote it right. let me quote it right.
I'm even checking my head agreeing.
We had a misquote in the last spot, so I'm trying to think. No, we are from this world, but we're not of the world, if that makes sense. But I think one thing that Joel said is there's comfortability in the world, there's comfortability in what we know, there's comfortability in the sin that we might be stuck in. And I think also uprooting it from the source and not cutting off at the leaves is where sometimes that we fall short. We think we got rid of the sin, but the only thing we did was mask it. We didn't go down and uproot it, take the root out of the soil. We are just cutting it when we see it grow up. And I think that's a hard part too, because that takes work, that takes discipline, that takes like just for real submission to God each and every day, and denying yourself whatever that sin is. Because when we just mask it at the source, it'll always come back. It will always come back. We literally have to uproot it from the soil. And I just think that's one thing that like it's not, we don't really talk about it enough, because it's like, okay, I struggle with smoking or something,
Mhm.
it's not gonna be a one and done thing. It's gonna be, okay, wait, I have to give this to God. I have to submit it to God. I have to uproot it from the source. It's gonna happen over. For some people it does, though. For some people it does, but for a lot of people, and I know the way that I like have to like go through, like if I'm struggling with something heavy, I have to uproot it from the source, or it will come back. Because that moment where it's like, oh, I have 2 hours in between class, I can go take a nap when I know I have assignments that are gonna pile up. I have to uproot it from the source. I have to hit it where it hurts, because like it's easier to just mask the issue rather than to take it from the ground.
Yeah.
But
That was good. That was good. I like how you said that. But also, I think we also forget that God is here to carry our burdens as well. Like he's here to hold our hand and show us the way. Like Jesus took away the guilt and shame and brought freedom. Like that was his an intent of coming to the world. So we have this space to constantly remind ourselves that even though I made this mistake, even though I did this, even though I know I shouldn't have said this, or I know I shouldn't have put myself in this situation, like we can still boldly come to God in the same way we were, you know what I mean? Before all that guilt and shame came into our life, we can still come to God because he still looks at us the same way. And also I feel like a lot of the time, like we do only feel comfortable coming to God when it's only good news, only something good happening. Then when it comes to like us making mistakes, it's like, ooh,
or falling back.
yeah, or like talking to that guy saying you won't talk to no more, or do whatever you said you were supposed to do it, and now you're quiet. Now you're not talking to God about it no more.
You were doing sugar business. But no, that's real. Joel just ate me up. I don't know who told her to talk. But it's true. Like when we are supposed to come to God in like good and bad, like it's so hard. Cause like I think we just forget. I remember I made a post on this on my close friends, the vastness and how big God is. He already saw it. He knew it was going to come. He created you. He knows us. He knows what you fall into. Right. He knows the cycles that you've been in. But he's literally standing there with open arms. Just come to me. Come to me and I will give you rest. Come to me and I will help you. I will carry these burdens. God doesn't want us to be carrying these burdens because we know we can't carry these burdens. And I hope I don't sidetrack by asking you this, but in church today, they're saying something about like carrying like the burdens of your family. But do you think that at like for yourself, I guess for yourself, like do you know what your like running from God thing is? Like, do you have like, oh, this is one thing that I know that okay, I always run from God for, or like you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. But that's gonna it's gonna put me in the hot seat.
You wanted to put me, so I had to.
um,
Right?
that's crazy. Yeah, I think when it comes to like running from God, like it definitely it definitely comes when in the topic of like relationships. And obviously like I feel like I'm very, very much a big like give it to God when it comes to my education. Like give it to God when it comes to my career. Give it to God when I want to do something, you know, that involves ministry, whatever the case may be, like I'm giving it to God, like because I know that God will handle it. But when it comes to like relationships and love and all that stuff, I'm like, well, I kind of want to do it my way, or I kind of wanted to go my direction. Like, it is crazy because a lot of the time when it comes to relationships, when it's going good, God is the only person. God is the number one person who's hearing all about it. He's hearing all about like the butterflies in your stomach. He's hearing all about, you know, the how that person made you smile, this, that, and the third. But when it's going bad, oh, it's crickets. Now you don't want to tell God about what that man did. Now you don't want to tell God about how he tell him what he did. But we run away from that a lot, and it's because we don't want God to take away things that we want to keep in our lives. And that's why we hide certain things from him. We hide our relationships, we hide our bad friends, we hide the one two sins that we know that we shouldn't be doing. And that also causes us to hide ourselves from him too. And yeah, I think that's one thing that I know I do a lot. Like if I like someone, if I have a crush, whatever, like he's gonna hear about it until it's bad and then now I'm hiding it. Girl.
Yeah, I feel like and I guess that's where we're very similar. Like education, all that, ministry, like anywhere where like, I mean, I feel like just now, I'm starting to do it way more with education than I used to do in the past. But I would say the same too. And I feel like for a lot of people, it is like people and relationships and friendships because that's a big part of our lives. Crave people will set themselves back so far just to be in a relationship, which is crazy. And like I say this as if it doesn't apply to us. Everything we say also applies to us too. But for me, it would be the same because like what Joella said, sometimes when like a new person's in your life, like it's giddiness, it's fun, it's sweet. Like you're telling God, like, oh God, thank you for sending me this little 1 2 1 2. Whole time I don't even know yet if it wasn't by God, you know. But I think I like I like to take control because I know how it's supposed to look rather than how God wants it to look. And I think I like sometimes just jump the gun and I'm like, okay, like this, that, and the third, like we need to this, like this. I need to make sure you're doing this. And I'm like, wait, they're also a person too. They're also like they're also on their own walk. They're also, I'm a certified lover girl. Get your head up. Get your head up. So like
Let's get back to the topic.
yeah, February is the month of love. So we're going to have a good series about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes I just like jump way over than where I can swim, you know? And I tend to just like try to control that aspect. And then what Joel said too, when things are not going right, it's crickets to God. It's, well, God, you already saw what he did, so I don't need to tell you. Or you may have already saw what I did, so I don't need to tell you. But God doesn't want us to hide that part from him either. He wants us to tell him. Even though I think sometimes we forget, even though he can see what we did, that doesn't mean we're not supposed to tell him what we did. Because also in saying what we did, it's almost like God, like, you're bigger than me. I'm taking accountability. It's like owning up, like, if you hurt me or vice versa, because I would never hurt you. It's taking accountability,
Yeah.
So it's also like we also have to take accountability with God. Yes, God is all powerful, all knowing, and omnipresent, but that doesn't mean we like, oh, he already saw, so I'm not gonna tell him.
Yeah, that reminds me of Cain from the Bible when he left the presence of God to settle elsewhere instead of taking accountability of what he did to his brother. God already saw what you did. God knows that you killed your brother, but you ran from God and then you lied about it. A lot of the time we run from God because we don't want to take accountability for what we did. Moses killed the Egyptian. He ran from Egypt to go settle somewhere else. Thank you. And God still came after him and sought for him. God still used him to be a blessing onto other people's lives, but yet he was hiding from God because he didn't want to take accountability for what he did. We don't want to take accountability for what we do, so we run from God, thinking that, oh, the fear of what God can do to us. I just don't want God to see me like that. I'm scared. No, it's just the same way, like how you said in the beginning, that we're children and God is our parent. We have parents. We make mistakes and our parents correct us. And we don't, and sometimes we lie about it. Sometimes we don't take accountability, and yet they still love us after that because they know that we are still young, we're still growing, we were going to make mistakes, and that's this walk with God. That's this walk with Jesus. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fall short, but it's us acknowledging and taking accountability for those mistakes instead of running away from God. God wants us to put it in front of him because when we acknowledge what we did is wrong, that he knows that we're taking accountability. We know that, okay, yeah, my daughter is not going to do that again. My son's not going to do that again because she came to me and was like, God, like, I don't want to make these mistakes again. So now we're going to work together to make sure that we don't fall short like this again. Period.
That was good, but she didn't need to add the period at the end. But I also, every day I'm quoting TikTok, but I also saw this TikTok and they were trying to explain, like, it was for children's ministry. They were trying to explain what the fear of God was to kids, and I was like, I took something from it. It's not just for kids, but they were saying how so, like, when, if just hypothetically speaking, you're like going 95, you're speeding, and like, and from a far distance you see a officer, and like, as somebody who respects authority, when you get closer to the officer, you start slowing down, you put your seatbelt on because you respect that officer and you have reverence for that officer, and you, not because you also don't want to get in trouble, but you also don't want to get in trouble either. And it's the same way with God, like, and I feel like that was a great way to explain it because it's not scared, um it's not frightened, and like, as kids and some even adults, I probably thought, even in high school, I might have still thought like scared of God, but um like, when I'm running and when I'm hiding from God, I don't respect God. I don't have reverence and honor and obedience from God. I think that what I know is better, and my sin is greater than what God can do for me. So I think that's one thing that should be emphasized more, like the fear of God. Just like, God, I honor and I respect you, so I'm not going to do this. Rather than, God, I'm scared of you, so I'm not going to do this because you're going to strike me down, because that's not how it works. It's more so of like a heart posture towards God of reverence and honor.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I don't have anything else to add. I think you capped it well.
Well, that was stop running from God. We see you running, so stop running right there. But thank you for watching this week's pod. Guys, tune in the month of February because I'm excited we're going to do a series in the month of February because we all know everybody's going to do shake a leg, post flowers to their story, post their chocolate that small boy got you. We're doing a series about love. It's going to be great. I'm so excited because I feel like, let me not start to talk again, but it's going to be good.
Yeah.
We're to the age where the next season in life, I mean, yeah. So we're gonna
the right hand.
She don't know because she's not locked in like I am. But yeah, we're going to do a season about just all things love, all things encompassing love, all things about the creator of love. So just be aware for that. I'm really excited for February because I have a lot to say.
I'm sorry, no, we gotta go. Bye, guys.
Bye, bye.